This is Our News, the weekend edition, and on the broadcast tonight, the opposition's deputy leader weighs in on the reopening of the tourism sector, charging there's still too much uncertainty for hotels. Plus, Bahama's president says key indicators will determine whether the resort opens fully or in phases. And 12 migrants rescued at sea. Tonight, the search continues for more.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Andrew Knowles, and thanks so much for joining us. Topping news tonight, Progressive Liberal Party's Deputy Leader Chester Cooper says he fully understands why some hotels have once again decided to delay their reopening, despite government's plan to have the tourism industry up and running by mid-October. On Tuesday, Bahama President Graham Davis told Our News the resort's goal of reopening in October was no longer a viable option, citing the uncertainty of progress being made to fight the virus in the country as well as the hotel's target markets.
I thought it was an indictment really on the plan, that he had very little confidence in the rapidly changing, flip-flopping emergency orders. My words, he didn't use those words. But he wants to see more predictability in the emergency orders, and he wants to see widespread testing. Coincidentally, this is what the Progressive Liberal Party has been calling on the government to do from the very beginning.
Cooper said businesses have been suffering because of the unpredictability of the emergency orders, which have prevented them from making concrete plans.
And let's ensure that businesses can predict what is going to happen in the future, so that they can plan, they can add resources, or they can take away resources, as the case might be, because these are very uncertain times. Businesses are very concerned about the future, and if they're able to plan well, then they can survive and they can keep people employed.
Mega Resort Atlantis has yet to announce a new reopening date, also stating that officials are monitoring the COVID-19 situation here in the Bahamas and globally. However, Cooper says there is a level of confidence that the government can instill in businesses that it has not.
I am concerned that the plans are not inspiring confidence. And this is what I've been saying all along. The government must facilitate private sector business. It must speak clearly. It must lay out its plans to the business community and the general public to inspire that trust and confidence, to ensure that we know what's happening and what's next in the economy.
With employees granted ex gratia payment for an additional 90 days, Bahama President Graham Davis says demand will determine how the resort reopens. Plans for an October reopening have been scratched, as Davis said there is too much uncertainty surrounding COVID-19 in the Bahamas and the resort's key markets. Employees are receiving 30% of their salary in the meantime. When it is time to reopen, Davis says they will look at key indicators to determine whether they will fully reopen or
if we see the demand strong enough, we'll open everything. But if we see the demand at a bit of a slower pace, then we'll look at a phased opening of our restaurants, absolutely. We think that makes the most sense. But obviously there'll be sufficient amount of experiences for all of our guests to enjoy.
The resort closed its doors back in March as the first wave of coronavirus cases began in the country. Over 2,000 confirmed cases later, and Davis says there needs to be more widespread testing in the Bahamas as well as in the United States. While he could not say exactly when Bahama will reopen its doors, he did say the experience will be more cautious.
Mask will be required throughout the public areas. Inside, obviously outside by the pool, it's not required. Physical distancing will be mandatory, of course, 6-foot physical distancing. We'll have markers, we'll have safety plexiglass in certain areas of the property, by the front desk, and we will certainly work to ensure that we have great technology to make it easy for our guests.
Davis says from booking to ordering room service and even opening their room door, new technology will make the experience a safer and better one for guests.
All of our guest keys, as we did earlier in 2019, have phased into a wristband that's an identification band, and also your room key. So you wear the key, and you're not having to hold that around or us to pass that to you. So we've got a lot of great technology that's in place to help keep a safe environment.
The Ministry of Tourism is set to launch campaigns to promote niche markets as a part of its 4-phase reopening plan. Tourism Minister Dionisio Diagler says the goal is to ensure the ministry has all its bases covered during its second attempt to relaunch the tourism industry in the midst of a global pandemic.
In the short term, we know that our niche markets of diving, fishing, boating, and ecotourism are going to be important in helping us to rebound. And we will be devising campaigns in concert with those sector stakeholders to ensure that we can maximize impact from the ministry's targeted marketing efforts. In the medium term, we will also focus on digital marketing and curating outdoor activities around national parks and soft adventure tourism to expand the suite of products available to guests in this post-COVID-19 environment.
According to the plan, Phase 3 of the tourism reopening will begin on October 15th with full beach access on all islands, the reopening of major hotels, and access to all amenities and water taxis permitted to operate. Attractions, tours, and excursions are expected to resume in November. However, it remains unclear when Phase 4, which will allow vendors, jet ski operations, casinos, cruises, and ferries to resume operations, will begin. Diagler says there will also be heavy promotion of the family islands as data indicates beaches are most desired by visitors.
We will focus on the Bahamas' close proximity to the U.S., which has long been an important advantage, and promote our secluded family islands with their rich selection of eco-adventures and beautiful beaches.
The total number of COVID-19 cases in the country increased by 54 Saturday. The Ministry of Health reporting 45 of those new cases are here in the capital, 4 on Abaco, 2 each on Grand Bahama and Eleuthera, and 1 on Exuma. The national count now stands at 2,928 cases, of which 1,524 are active cases. 67 people have died, 71 are in hospital, and 1,319 have recovered. Well, 12 migrants were rescued at sea, while a joint search and rescue mission continues tonight to recover 5 missing passengers. According to the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, several Haitian and Jamaican nationals were on board a vessel when it began taking on water just miles south of Chub Key in the Berry Islands.
A coordinated response by the United States Coast Guard, the Royal Bahamas Police Force, and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force is on the way. Patrol Boat 127 arrived on scene at about 5 a.m. on the 12th of September 2020 and discovered 12 persons clinging to a capsized 30-foot boat. These individuals were retrieved from the water and transported to Coral Harbor Base, where they were turned over to health officials and the Royal Bahamas Police Force.
Following the outpouring of social media complaints about the maternity ward at Princess Margaret Hospital, Angliston MP GLENYS HANNA-MARTIN says government needs to establish a task force to address the urgent needs of that hospital. Berthany McDormand has that.
Horrific is how Angliston Member of Parliament GLENYS HANNA-MARTIN describes stories of many women on social media regarding their time at the maternity ward at Princess Margaret Hospital. HANNA-MARTIN asserted that something is wrong and called on Health Minister Renwood Wells to bring a focus to what is happening in the public hospital.
We're hearing a lot of stories coming out of the maternity ward. I don't know what the facts are, but I'm seeing some distressed and distraught women and families. Something is wrong there. And there has to be, there's been no comments and there's been no statement made. I cannot believe this. I cannot believe this. Women are going in to have babies, some are not coming out, babies are not coming out, and there's no stabilizing statement from the Minister of Health. And I want to urge the Minister of Health to bring a focus to what is happening in that hospital.
In recent weeks, a number of women took to social media describing their experience on the maternity ward, some in horrific detail. On Tuesday, Health Minister Renwood Wells said no complaints were filed. HANNA-MARTIN suggested the government form a task force to identify and address the issues at the hospital.
I think it's very important that the government immediately bring an action task force, not no long story, something very quickly with experts, to bring a quick analysis as to what is not happening in that hospital, including cleaning and basic stuff, and as a result, implement an immediate, urgent action plan to ensure basic standards in that hospital, not fancy stuff, basic.
She also slammed government silence on the matter, adding that there seems to be a serious lapse of leadership in the country.
We are hearing all this noise in the public domain. I say noise, but commentary about what's happening in that hospital and the tragedies that are being asserted. And no one in government feels that they should have the courtesy to address this issue or to say something. I mean, this is an incredible lapse in leadership in this country. And I think the women in the maternity ward and throughout the hospital in Nassau and Grand Bahama deserve better. And we have to speak up to insist for better because this is not acceptable.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
All right, thanks a lot, Berthany. Well, hurricane shelters are now outfitted to adhere to COVID-19 protocols, according to State Minister for Disaster Preparedness, IRAM Lewis, who said a recent storm gave his ministry the opportunity to put the necessary measures in place. Here's GIORGIO BAIN.
Minister of State for Disaster Preparedness, Management and Reconstruction, IRAM Lewis, said he is pleased with the state of hurricane shelters. Concerns were raised surrounding how COVID-19 protocols, such as social distancing, would be adhered to in shelters, but Lewis said all the necessary steps have been taken.
Isaiah's given us a good chance to do a drill. So we were able to, in addition to getting our gyms ready, our classrooms were ready. We had social services and their management team in place, the Defense Force in place, our shelter managers, volunteers were in place. We had the temperature guns at the facilities checking temperature. We had health staff on hand, and of course, if a person was screened and there were any suspect, we put them in isolated areas. If persons had COVID-19 and they were in the hospital, they would stay at the hospital.
Lewis said plans for shelters were fine-tuned during the passage of Hurricane Isaias.
All of the code protocols, based on our preparation, I'm satisfied, and the fact that we weren't severely impacted by Isaias give us a chance to even fine-tune some of our plans. So I do believe moving forward, of course, it's very fluid. It's learn as you go, and we intend to tighten and to continue to improve over time as we go.
With many public schools listed as hurricane shelters, especially on family islands, Lewis said an extra effort is being undertaken to ensure that schools in Abaco and Grand Bahama are built to withstand Category 5 storm winds. Lewis said he is confident that moving forward, the Bahamas has the necessary steps in place to better safeguard citizens during storms.
About approximately $5 million was allocated between schools in Grand Bahama and then Abaco. So that is money that was spent in the Bahamas to Bahamian companies. The work is being closely monitored and managed, and I'm satisfied with the level of work that is being done by Bahamians. I'm satisfied with our workforce, their skill set, and also with our capacity. I do believe now we have the capacity to better manage any disaster moving forward.
Reporting for Our News Weekend Edition, I'm GIORGIO BAIN.
And we will take our first break here, but when we come back, one nonprofit organization gives a breakdown of the millions spent in aid on Hurricane Dorian. Plus, a visually impaired man shares his story of struggling for his independence. Those stories straight ahead.
Happy fools, happy fools, 242, 242, happy fools, 242, food galore just for you. Happy food, 242, food galore just for you. This ain't no talking show, it's an eating show. Sasha Laurel is the host of Happy Foods, 242, food galore just for you. Happy Foods, 242, food galore.
Just over a year after Hurricane Dorian devastated the northern Bahamas, an international non-profit organization has spent nearly $30 million to assist Bahamians impacted by the ferocious storm. Jasmine Brown has the breakdown in this report.
The financial breakdown of those donations and how they were used was broken down in the American Red Cross Hurricane Dorian one-year update. According to the September 2020 report, more than $50 million was raised to assist Dorian victims. The report stated, "Thanks to our generous donors, the American Red Cross has raised $51.2 million, including the value of critical donated goods and services to help people impacted by Hurricane Dorian, both in the Bahamas and the United States. As of August 7, 2020, the Red Cross had allocated approximately $37.7 million to emergency relief and recovery efforts for people affected by Hurricane Dorian. The report indicated that of the $51 million raised, more than half, $28.5 million of that money accounted for expenses in the Bahamas. As it relates to a breakdown of that $28.5 million, the report stated that grants to help unmet needs accounted for 83% of expenses. The Red Cross report stated that $3.2 million was spent on food, shelter, and relief items, $16.6 million was spent on financial assistance, and $3.7 million was spent on community recovery. The report also noted that the deployment of Red Cross staff, volunteers, and temporary hires only accounted for 7% of the expenses. As it relates to its charitable work in the Bahamas over the last year, the report noted that the Red Cross spent $11.3 million in unrestricted cash grants to more than 3,000 households. It also noted that the Bahamas Red Cross partnered with nonprofits to offer assistance to hundreds in New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Abaco. The report said through the Bahamas Red Cross partnership with World Central Kitchen, nearly 575,000 meals were served to residents coping with the impact of Dorian and the coronavirus outbreak. The Red Cross report comes as officials from the Disaster Reconstruction Authority revealed this week that while more than $300,000 was pledged in cash at a United Nations Development Program Pledge Conference last year, only $109,000 of that has been collected. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
A 25-year-old man who is visually impaired says he struggles with his independence. However, our Jared Higgs tells us he hopes becoming a businessman can help him achieve his goals.
Very tragic, very painful, very stressful.
That's how 25-year-old VERNEKO GIBSON described the life-changing event of losing his vision. It happened when he was shot 6 times more than 2.5 years ago.
Some of you born 23 years of their life, seeing, being independent, hard working. You could go anywhere, any job I work to and ask about me, they could give you a good report, like I was a good worker.
Gibson says now his vision is limited to shadows. It means he needs help with simple tasks.
I wasn't able to be independent for myself and I lost all my independency.
A year after he lost his vision, Gibson's girlfriend gave birth to twins. He says it was a special moment and it encouraged him.
So I realized and it shocked me to know that my God wasn't finished with me yet. And it was just the start of a major blessing He's bestowed upon me.
Right now, he makes a living by helping his mother sell pasta salads. She and other family members play a big role in his life.
My mom got to drive me around. She had to make sure I'm secured before she go. I got sisters who got to try walk me around and be my eyes. And all my life, I was independent.
Gibson wants to be more independent and thinks he can achieve that with the right business ideas. We met him as he completed a food handler certification with the Ministry of Health.
I'm just trying to get certified, in all the right aspects, inside the Bahamas. Certified, health certificate, my license for me to do my pasta and doing the salad business, for me to open up a landscaping business, because I want to do a couple of things where I could bring in enough funds to take care of me and my kids.
The man says he isn't scared to take a risk if it means supporting his children.
I done clean windows and boxing in my state. In my state now, I done gone a bladder, I done built scaffolds with a bucket and wood. I done, I can't let my independency just go like that, because I know that person I is. I know what I'm capable of. So once Christ be with me, and once he's in my vessel, I'm going to continue to smile at the storm, no matter how they come.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
When Our News, the weekend edition, comes back from the break, Grand Bahama nurses still coping with challenges from Hurricane Dorian. And later, we take a look at the most memorable quotes of the week, so stay tuned.
Happy foods. Happy foods. 242. 242. Happy foods. 242. Food galore just for you. Happy food. 242. Food galore just for you. This ain't no talking show, it's an eating show. Sasha Laurel is the host of Happy Foods. 242. Food galore just for you. Happy Foods. 242. Food galore.
Welcome back to Our News, the weekend edition. Though nurses on Grand Bahama have made it through many storms, Principal Nursing Officer BAIN said Dorian was the most impactful. Her staff now operates from multiple sites, which has added tension to their relationships. She said they've been managing the mental and physical strain on those workers.
We had to regroup in terms of communication, how do you get to them, and to make them feel involved. You know, you could walk from one area to the other, but right now you have to jump in the car and go and say hello to your colleague. So bearing all those factors, you know, we took them into consideration in terms of the mental strain and the physical strain it put on the nursing department.
With 298 persons in the nursing department in Grand Bahama, their team is in need of more nurses. BAIN said they are especially in need of more specialty nurses on that island.
We need more nurses. Nurses are retiring just about, you know, and they're nurses with skills in particular, specialty. Most of those specialty programs are in New Providence, that type of thing. So we are always transitioning from one area to the other. So there is always a need for nurses in a particular area.
Up next, the countdown to our quotes of the week, so stay with us.
Coming soon to Rev TV, Goombay Kids. Goombay Kids is a show about learning, interacting, and having fun. Goombay Kids has made 4 kids by kids right here in the Bahamas.
Sit back, here we go, it's a Goombay day.
Goombay Kids!
Finally tonight, it's that time when we take a look back at the most memorable moments of the week in news. In at number 3 are these former hotel workers from MELIA who say the union did a poor job in representing them.
Every week they take $10. So if you ain't gonna give me nothing, give me every $10 I had in there. Everyone. And before they took the $10 to $9 they used to take. I want that.
We haven't received anything. They have done nothing for us. Nothing. You know, and it is bad to know that you can pay your dues, and when you come to the union for assistance, they turn you away and tell you that they cannot do nothing for you.
Then there's this heated moment in the House of Assembly on Wednesday after East Grand Bahama MP Peter Turnquest threw a bit of shade at Central and South Andros MP Picewell Forbes, which Forbes took as an insult to his intelligence.
I don't know about South and Central Andros. I don't expect him to understand these issues in detail, but I do expect the member for Duma.
Honorable member, he has been known to be culpable for not bringing proper documents to this parliament. And in our view, we're saying to him, lay the documents today. Don't tell me what I could comprehend or not, but the Speaker, I asked the member to withdraw it. If not, it's going to be a different candidate for me and him going forward in this honorable place. That's all I'm asking, Mr. Speaker. I find his comments very condescending and personal and disrespectful.
An elderly woman who was beaten up and robbed says the whole ordeal has left her frightened to stay in her own home. Her comments take the top spot for Quote of the Week.
I wish you all find them, and I see them, and I get them. I will give them a beating myself.
Well, that does it for our Quote of the Week and other stories making news this evening. Our extended weather forecast is up next. And that's our news, the weekend edition for this Sunday. I'm Andrew Knowles. For all of us here at Our News, thanks so much for watching. Let's remember to be safe and look out for each other. Have a great evening.